Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have a ranked game today, not one of mine, one of HanDHun's against the Colonel Hypnotoad, and HanDHun's actually with us here today in the recording in chat to tell us a little bit about this game, what went right, what went wrong, and all of that. So you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. HanDHun, friend of the channel. This is second ranked game of the day today. Hypnotoad has had my number before, so trying to find a way to get an initiative on him, so that involves an armored column straight down Foxtrot and see how it goes.
That's an unorthodox push for, this looks like an unspec deck? USA unspec?
Yes, so I took USA unspec. Last time I played this guy, he had run Scandi Mech. So I took one HA, figured that'd be stronger than anything else you could throw at me, and enough.
Gotcha. You weren't worried about anything with like the reach around and Bravo?
I was, but I figured I'd keep it defense and then.
Gotcha. Oh shit. So so that's Scandi. Could still be Mac. Same deck?
Yes, this is a Scandi Mech deck, yep.
I gotcha. Alright, the heavy Abrams should do pretty well here with the automatics in the open as well. Two automatics.
So when I see that he's doing the same thing as I am, I'm not proud of it, but my first instinct was to get air superiority on top of it and try and deal
Hold on just 1 second.
I could.
Your volume did drop a little bit, so I'm just going to turn you up a little bit.
Okay.
Can you say something else?
Testing, this is my normal tone of voice, especially when I'm bringing a Deagle onto the field.
Gotcha. Alright, let's keep going. Sorry about that, just fixing a little bit of volume there on our side. And, okay, so it looks like he got one automatic out. Did you get the other one? Ooh, no.
Yeah, I believe I got one.
Jeez. Yeah, fair enough. So this looks like cautiously optimistic, and the STRV 103Ds were really good, but the armor penetration on the HA Abrams should be able to zone that out pretty well.
Yep.
At this point,
so he does a good job here of conserving his tank force. So you can see he pulls an automatic back, he pulls about 3 of the 90 point stirrers back.
Yeah.
So at this point I feel comfortable that I've translated my point advantage early into territory control, since he had committed to CB and Charlie and I did not in Echo.
Second automatic
so
by the way too, nice.
Tick loss, yep.
Yeah.
The problem, as we'll see the game develop, is that taking this ground is nice to secure the center point, but I need to figure out how to rotate and succeed with it later.
Gotcha.
So you see M1 Abrams trading with the Stir 103D. Obviously not a fight is going to win. Let the HA try and take the main shots, but with only a limited number of riflemen left to actually seize ground, it's a little bit of a tricky situation.
Yeah, but this looks pretty good. Like, I think this is exactly right with the Cobra going forward. It's a little bit rough. The false skirms aren't quite as effective against it as they are, but you said about rotating earlier. I would almost just push right through to Charlie. I guess the worry is maybe he calls out. So Scandi has a lot of really good tools for eliminating tanks in the open. So you have, of course, the cluster bombers, you have the MLU, things like that. That was probably on your mind as well, I'd imagine.
Yep.
Gotcha.
The main thing was that because he had so many of the Stir 103Ds that were safe, I had no way of advancing into them without risking a lot of side shots.
Gotcha.
So I push up to the first layer of forest near Charlie, but because I had to commit to buying a CV to protect my pick, I don't really have a good follow-up.
Yeah, and
infantry
I definitely I agree with that decision. You're right that it's taking out a little bit of the front line, but a +2 tick is just so devastating. We're 4 minutes in and he's at nearly 100 points. It's 20% of the way there. And the other thing that's interesting is like the false Jaeger on that side. He's clearly trying to see, okay, well he saw the HA Abrams in mid, a whole lot of stuff here. Where are you weak? So it's a very fast response. People under Lieutenant Colonel, Major, things like that, it wouldn't have necessarily been that fast. So it's a little unfortunate that he seemed to be really quick on the jump there. Because, if he locks down Golf, you have Foxtrot, you're contesting Bravo, that still is positive tick. But if you have to build up points defending Echo, that's going to pull away from your front line. So there's a lot of chess match going on right now for positioning, I'd say. Yeah. M1 Abrams.
Yeah, I felt good about the concept of it, because if you hold Fox and you hold Bravo, retaking Gulf, or at least even just that small city block, is relatively easy since it's closer to your reinforcement line.
Right here, you mean?
So I felt confident that if I was able, if I was able to hold Bravo and the middle, that I'd eventually be able to secure a +1 tick.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good. The issue, I mean, this is exactly it. Like, if he holds golf, the issue with that is, like, falls up to the top of the
Yep.
plateau through here. Like, it's just awkward angles. And it's something that, you know, a lot of people when they play ranked or any game, really, not even just this one, you get used to playing certain ways around certain maps. And turning sideways and defending against Scandi infantry through the woods here is very unusual.
It's
So,
a huge pain.
yeah, it
I mean,
seems...
thankfully, right, it's sent to such a narrow path. It's pretty obvious once you see one piece of infantry what route they're taking.
Yeah,
So
but like even if you see it, the issue is going to be line of sight because like back here is like, where you're going to shoot in from that, right? You can't from the high ground, you can't from the other side. I do like the kills in the 204, like the Chaparral putting in a lot of work.
yeah, it's actually very annoying because he's just using them as transport helicopters and then using soak damage from my chap.
Yeah,
but I
you
have to
12
shoot them
missiles.
down.
Like,
Yeah.
This is going to be the start of a counter thrust by the look of it.
Yep.
I've never seen somebody like major or above who keeps 103Ds in individual units. I've always seen these grouped. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Man. Nice Cobra. Is this the same one from the beginning?
I bring out many Cobras, so I'm sure this is not the same one.
Oh yeah, looks like it did get back. I mean, keeping that alive is pretty nice. And then we just go up and pound the heck out of all that expensive Scandi infantry. That definitely seems like a way to make sure that you keep trading effectively, right? It's like, you lose a rifleman, he loses a Fallskirmjäger. Yeah, okay. Sure. I do kind of question the number of M1 Abrams. Like, I know you like this tank, but it seems like it's going to suffer a lot against the 103D. Even in high numbers where the HA Abrams might be a more consistent buy. Was there a reason that you wanted the medium tanks?
I think that's a good point to consider. I mean, the M1 tanks, the base Abrams, as their intent is always just fire support to aid in forest fighting. And
Where is that one? Oh. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, in this case, I expected them to be using support against infantry. I did not want them to be fighting against the 103Ds.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they are pretty phenomenal defensively built tanks, so the anti-infantry role is very nice. Yeah, it's a patient pullback from Hypnotoad. You don't usually see that. You usually see the whole, well, like, if I can't break them now, I can't ever break them. Out of rocket pods, I mean, this seems like just cycle. Oh yeah, second Cobra right there already. And then, I don't know, I mean, the M1 Abrams here and the infantry here, did you consider maybe like recon here and the M1 pushing up a little bit farther? Or did you really just want to make sure that he couldn't get through to your 2-point?
It was mostly the latter. Because he had just thrown some empty boxes across the river, I felt the need to respond to it. I probably overreacted and simultaneously didn't protect the 2-pointer enough.
Gotcha. Well, you know how I mentioned I lost my first game of ranked on this map? I never said how because other people joined the chat, but the way that I did was people just sent, actually maybe I did say, my opponent just sent everything through golf. I opened on the right side of the map and he just didn't stop.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. So like at the 2-minute mark, 3-minute mark, I had a whole motorized opener just going right to my base. It was really unfortunate. I guess
that's
question...
the hallmark of just do not panic, buy infantry and town blocks.
Yeah.
And then trust the process.
I mean, at the time I had like 200 multiplayer games, 0 ranked games, so I definitely panic bought planes. And at the time, I still wasn't even really aware that they had minimum bomb drop distances, so...
Yep.
Yeah, it got real bad real quick, I think it's fair to say. I do like the kills on the Fallskirmjäger though, like, this is probably still the first group, but one of the 2 of them is dead, that's 30 points. These other Fallskirm are about to get pounded by a Cobra, so like... I think as far as kills go, what, 2 automatics at the start, that's 16% of his opener right there. There's been a couple of tanks, a couple of infantry. It definitely seems like right now, I think it's going pretty well. And then the Blackhawk here getting a cap on Bravo is very nice as well. So this map, there's a couple maps, Mudfight in particular is the one everyone always talks about, get tick early. But this one always feels the same to me. And with 121 tick to your opponent, that's, I think, a really good buy. Make him buy CV as well, make him force that pace, and... Ooh, was that a blue? Yep, that's a blip right here. Yep. Did you notice this in game?
Once the rifleman started taking damage, yeah, right about here.
Gotcha.
I wasn't too concerned about it because I figured it was just one element probing to see if I actually had anything in this town block.
Yeah, and it's a nice
So
case study in infantry cost versus performance as well. Like the Rifleman 90, I think very good pick here for the AT4, but then they should deal okay with Stormer as long as they're in the open. This will become bad, but not if the Cobra gets involved, which your response time with these Cobras is always just a dangerous thing. I really hate it. Of course, it's nice when we're on the same team, but
it's definitely a crutch, but especially in ranked games where you can trust that the A net isn't going to be very strong. I think this is where the Deagle finally does die.
yeah.
I did see that he brought out two iHawks.
Right, and then the down vet MLU.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a lot of anti-air capability.
Yeah, I had gotten, I think that was the third or fourth run of the Deagle, so he had invested. I think that's also a very good lesson. He responded appropriately and over time.
Yeah.
Right, he brought out about 100 points with AA to replace what was lost. He brought out 150 points in MLU. It's a good multi-role.
Yeah, so seeing that, did anti-plane, anti-air become a priority, or was that still one of those, like, if you're not using planes too aggressively? I do like the Thunderbolt buy here, though, for the STRVs. It's like, I don't know, USA plane tab, just, it confuses the hell out of me.
It's definitely something that I'm still adjusting to as well. Yeah, I think my next big buy here is a Patriot, because I didn't want to gamble on getting plane v plane action here, especially against an MLU.
Right, but
so I just figured I'd build up a consistent A in that.
Right, and with the Patriot, if that MLU tries to get a little bit greedy, it'll get punished for it real easy. So I think that's probably pretty good. And the Chaparrals, I mean, it's not great anti-plane range, but you're so far forward too, right? Like the Chaparral here, it might still be able to take a shot. This being a general deck, you probably don't run Manpad's teams, is my guess.
Manpad in the Bradley.
Oh, really?
Pretty standard. Yeah.
Standard USA.
Yeah, it is very standard because it's about as meta of a deck as you can build.
Gotcha.
That was taught to me. But basically, it's, you know, you put a Manpad in a Bradley, right? You only need 4 to 7 Manpads in a game. You only need 4 to 7 Bradleys in a game. And especially on Hell in a small place, you don't want any Bradleys.
Ooh, so. Was that an STRV? No, unarmored truck. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, the next time I decided to just straight up... Ooh, what was that? Aerial corridor lost. Did he countercap you here? Or were you just moving?
I just moved it into attack.
Okay, sorry. Man, every time I hear that sound playing my own ranked games, it's just
trauma.
Blind panic,
Trauma.
Right? Yeah, okay, here's the MLU. Oh man, that was a nice pickup.
Yeah. The timing was very good because my Patriot is in the middle of a reinforcement.
Yeah, and the Chaparral did get one hit too, so like if the Patriot was in range, that would have been a kill there, but you know, that's a 140 point pickup for him right there, and the MLU is only 160 points, which, yeah, it's expensive, but that's most of the way toward repayment in one run, and it got out. So I'm beginning to get the sense of, you know, 5-8 minutes in, this felt pretty nice. At the 14-minute mark or so, okay, a little worried. But at the same time, it's hard to say what should have gone different.
Yeah, that's the part that I need to analyze, and I don't really know, right? Because in the beginning, I was trading well against his infantry, getting a lot of point efficiencies there, which let me bring out multiple CVs without losing ground.
Yeah.
But once we moved it into the plane and the air fight, the value did not go my way.
What it almost seems like, and tell me if I appear to be off base here, it almost seems like he's doing a bit of a limp noodle defense, which is odd, because usually, you know, this is a game of conquest. You need to take ground to win, and if you're behind on map control, usually it's your prerogative to push, because if you don't, you'll lose the long game. Like, you have 26 minutes. If you get a cap in Foxtrot, he just loses the game unless he pushes you. But so far, he's been hanging back, just building up forces in Charlie very patiently, probing with a couple of units, but really not that much. Like, what was catastrophic losses, or not catastrophic, but major losses at 5 minutes, is now pretty light. You get 105 points a minute, and I'd say he probably has another 900 points on the field compared to about 10 minutes ago, 12 minutes ago.
I mean, I like his mindset because, right, he's recovering from the infantry losses that he suffered early. He knows he can sit patiently because he has the initial point advantage, so he can bank on that. And then he is finding point efficiency by, right, farming from the air.
Yeah, the double miss in the Patriots.
Because I had CV'd Bravo, he knows that there's no way I am building up enough forces to mount a serious attack on Charlie. Because like you look at my front line, there's no way I can push it into Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, your front line would even probably struggle against a couple of STRV 103Ds as well. Like, if you decided to push now, that would be pretty bad. Pretty bad. And, I don't know, that single HA anchoring this side is just... It was a lot to lose that. So I like what you're doing here, trying to move up toward golf. If it were me, I'd say my next buy would be another HA, and just leave it up here on the high ground, make him suffer if he pushes in. Yeah, because just picking up 1 or 2 of the 103Ds is more than enough value to make him pull back, because he's played a very cautious game. Very cautious indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, the idea here is that because I lost the anchor on Foxtrot, I didn't feel like I could make significant ground there, so wanted to rotate into Gulf now, buy some space.
Yeah, it makes sense.
See what the response is.
Especially with getting the cap on Fox, like if you secure this part of Golf as well, then it almost doesn't matter if you lose the low ground here, because you just counter cap in Golf and go back to +1. So it's definitely good logic. It makes a lot of sense to me. Man, this guy likes his planes, doesn't he? Please tell me the Patriot hits. No, oh my god. Your Patriot luck right now is my Patriot luck always. In other words,
it was
no.
a little painful. It is a downed Patriot, which on Hell is probably not necessary, but...
I mean, but you're not always playing to Hell, right? That's the struggle with ranked, is you never know what map you're gonna get, and you definitely build you definitely build the deck differently for Hell than you would for Highway. But if you come in with a deck that can only play on Hell and you roll into Highway, it's like, well, that's a problem. And that I think has a lot to do with like deck building in general, is you can't over specialize, and decks that do specialize, like for example Scandi Mech, just have map advantages and disadvantages sometimes. So this is definitely one I think that just deck to deck matchup does favor your opponent, which is a little rough.
I mean, a mech deck in Hell or a mech deck in, call it Plunging Valley, is kind of the dream scenario.
70% accuracy and it's gone 0 for 4. What the hell? Dude.
Couldn't tell you, bud.
Yeah, I'm angry on your behalf. It's like, come on. Oh no. Oh man. Okay, so Falskirmjäger on the side. I don't know, I guess when you saw these guys here earlier, I guess like some infantry over on this side would have been probably a good choice, but that almost seems like hindsight 2020 as well. Like, the reinforcements to Fox was good, the cap on Bravo was good, the tempo here is good, but man, that had to hurt.
Yeah.
Right.
Another 15 points in infantry to defend it would have probably won me the game.
Plus, you know...
This flustered me a lot, losing that.
Right, so he's ticking +1. He can probably kill the M1 Abrams, I'd say, and it looks like you're microing up here as well. So did you notice that right away, or did it take a minute?
I mean, well, when I lost the CV, I noticed. I literally had a CV going into Gulf that I needed to reroute to this. It was very frustrating.
Oh yeah, that's a little rough. I mean, you have 2 Cobras though, right here and right here. That could be a way to deal with it, but I mean, Falskirmjäger, expensive Falskirmjäger up the front again. I do like the mortar play. Been pretty consistent, just punishing those elite forces, and like the front looks good. If that hadn't happened, this would be, I think, just a really good position. Is this replay gonna be a whole like 40 minutes of, if not for this one thing, one after another?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. Spoiler alert for the rest of the video. Although looking at the replay now, I now realize that my response time was about a minute slower than I thought it was.
I mean, that is always...
Only now you see the Cobras coming back in to find the Falskirmjäger.
Yeah. If there's one thing I can recommend to basically every single person who plays this game, regardless of rank, it's watch your own replays. Because you'd be surprised how many people don't, and you can really learn a lot about, you know, exactly as Han said right there. You think you respond one way, you look at the replay and realize, oh shoot, no, like there were earlier indications for this, there was something I could have done differently, and I think it's super helpful. New players, experienced players alike. So, you know, it's a good thing to watch, and sometimes it can really be a bear to force yourself to do, because nobody likes watching their own tough games or losses, but, you know, maybe it's just my opinion as somebody who does this as a hobby pretty much every night, but...
I agree, absolutely. I mean, if you want to get better, you watch your own replays. You watch, if you're really committed to it, you watch other people's replays.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think that's part of the reason why, you know, your success as a player has been so pronounced, because every day, right? You're watching your own replays, you're watching other people's replays, you're seeing a lot of different play styles going on.
Oh, I appreciate that. It's it's sometimes quite rough. I've definitely had
It's
days
tough,
where like
for
you
sure.
queue into ranked, you get smacked 3 times in a row, and the last thing you want to do is look at it. But you know, it can help. So this is something as well. Like this far up, I do kind of question why he kept pushing there, because if he had elite infantry coming in this side and this side, he probably has more here. And this town is very defensible from the blue side. Um,
So my thought process of this one, I was still, you know,
Pissed
brain
about
broken
Echo.
from losing a CV.
Yeah.
I had initially, because I had managed to kill the recon and these the shock teams that were there on Gulf, I knew that you wasn't going to have a lot of defensive depth, so I wanted to see how far I could get.
Gotcha.
And then when I saw that it was only garrisoned by an ATGM team, I felt comfortable sitting that town block. My mistake was that when I saw the Leaf Garden come in to reinforce, I thought the Marines would be able to take out the transports instead.
Yeah, and they very nearly did. I think it was just a bit too far. It's like they were back here, and if they were
they
up
had
there,
sight, they dropped sight. Yeah, it was
right. That's a little unfortunate. Is that blue? Okay, that's the bell. Sorry. The minimap sometimes like gives a very skewed perspective. I thought that blue dot right
not
there
linear.
was yeah. If only things were built to scale. And then this has to be a little worrisome as well, because the pressure from this guy, like, I've never seen someone just take the first 10 minutes so passive before. It's been a long time since I've seen that. From somebody who isn't a new player, who just decides, okay, well, I'll just defend over this, not realizing that they need the space. But I mean, 103Ds, Fighting Falcon again, Puff leading the way again. It's probably the, MLU behind it. One Patriot dead. Man, that really just... to be quite frank, if it was me, I'm not sure I would have stayed in. Ooh, MLU. Was that 2 for 1? Oh,
no.
Beautiful.
The Fighting Falcon had died earlier. I think it was just on a higher arc.
Oh, okay. That would have been pretty nice.
I mean, at this point, yeah. I knew I had lost the game because I didn't have I had to reroute a CB from Gulf to Echo. I didn't have enough points to hold the front line in Fox, and you might have seen the Leaf Garden that were marching through the right side on Bravo as well.
Yeah, we did see them there for just a minute. And, like at this point,
I had lost all the key terrain points that I'd wanted to hold.
I think basically your only shot at this point is... Oh, did he countercap? Yeah, that's rough. So you have to hold here, right? Some US Marines in this section and up top could get there, but even then you need an HA, and that's like talking about 220, 230 points. That's 2 minutes worth of income just to stem this, and if he's pushing you in Bravo as well, that could be pretty rough.
I think your point about the HA is correct. I never managed to find enough time to spend the 140 points for an HA and use that to re-anchor the center of my line and build around that. Instead, I was just, panic buying at 50, 100 points, or buying a plane if I had the time for it. This is really sad. Terrain relief is tough.
Oh no. I mean, hey, armor came in. No. Goodness.
I needed to order it to turn after first hit, because I took the first hit on side armor.
Yeah.
Which is suboptimal.
Yeah.
I think my mindset at this point in the game is I knew I wasn't going to win, but I wanted to pick and choose a lane to retake to at least get what value I could out of it.
Yeah,
so
and like
looking at Foxtrot, obviously not holdable.
Since I don't Bravo maybe. Yeah.
That's So I was like,
the way
let's
back
practice
in here is to kill his CVs too. Right, like that. That's a nice thing. And then about never having the points to buy the HA, like I definitely get that, because one of the things that you learn as you go along in this game is never to float too many points. And when everything feels like a crisis, it's very easy to constantly bring in reinforcements when you get used to that, and it's a little ironic. It almost can be hurtful. Oh geez, that's a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah, learning when to float and when not to is definitely, I think, one of the nuances.
I think everyone
but like you see, right, I brought in a longbow. It gets value, but that could have easily been a tank on the ground to build a front line off of.
Yeah, I think you wanted to kill the 103Ds, and then just the line of sight around here is so tricky, because the town blocks more than you think. This is in low hover, so it can't even get line of sight there. Like if this was right about
I'm keeping the longbow back because I saw AA come out from the tree line where the Rangers are.
Yeah, that's fair. And then, I don't know, this is just... Hypnotoad seems to be just insanely cautious. Like, every single push he's done has been well supported. It's interesting too.
I mean,
like,
part of that is on me for giving him that space, right? Because I was also playing conservative when I got an advantage my first buy of the CV.
I
If,
almost
for
wish there
instance,
was
we
a
had extended
rewind
the
button.
opener. Yeah. But if we had taken the opener where I had won the initial conflict over Foxtrot, I could have extended into his line to prevent him from getting that long reinforced time.
See, but I'm not even sure about that, right? Because he retreated 3 103Ds back. I think your instincts were correct, because if he retreated them back in 3 different directions, your HA loses to that on the ground at close range. And even if he didn't, that MOU buy was very early. And the HA was really the only thing up here that could go pound for pound with the 103Ds. So I think the defense in Foxtrot was the right idea. It's just, sometimes your Patriot misses 4 times in a row, and that's just going to make the game harder, right? So, was that that missile?
That was a beautiful curve.
Yeah. Which, I don't think the takeaway there is just to say, okay, well, the whole game was lost by the Patriot missing, but it certainly didn't help, right? Because you think Fighting Falcon is dead, that last plane train that took out a Patriot never comes in, right? So
I think what I could have done for the AA side is gotten 1 Patriot and maybe like an ASF instead of doubling up on the Patriots. You might have been able to handle things a little bit cleaner.
So I do want to ask you though, because I think you play US quite a bit more than I do. What's your opinion on the Hawk Pip 3 versus Patriot debate? 'Cause I know there's a debate about, is the Patriot actually truly worth the price?
It's a good question. I mean, I don't really use the Hawk, so I can't speak to it. I think the difference is simply that the Patriot is a lot easier to manage, right? You have, because its range is so long, you can be a little bit slower on your radar micro. And if you're a little late, you'll still catch things in range.
So
as compared to the Hawk, where it'll have to be closer to the front line by about a click, right, to get the same efficacy.
So gotcha. So if your Hawk Pip 3 was this far back and there was a bomber up to the front line here, your Hawk has like a 5-second window of viability.
Well, it'll never shoot something that far away, right?
Yeah, that's true. Patriot
the net is smaller by definition.
Do you bring artillery in this USA deck?
I really desperately wanted a paladin this round.
That's why I was asking. It's like, and I've seen you, like, when you played this against me, that paladin killed what, like a CV, a tank, 4 or 5 units of artillery, of infantry. Like,
I basically traded a paladin for a command Abrams in this deck.
Gotcha.
And I don't know what I would take out to put the paladin back in.
Yeah, and the command Abrams is very good too. 3 top armor is exceptional for 160 points. Command tank and 15 frontal armor, decent gun as well versus infantry. Like it's a solid all around command tank. Definitely very long lived. It's just I always struggle to have any deck that has 3 cards of command vehicles, because that means a full logistics tab. It's 3 additional points, especially coalitions that have 55 points. It's very tight. So USA has 60 though, doesn't it?
Yeah, USA could pull it off. I could probably get away with not running the 5-plane air tab.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe take out the Thunderbolt or something.
Well, but I don't know. There's so many. This is why this game is into its 8th year in Wargame Red Dragon, right? And any number of balance patches and things like that. And people are still debating the best way to run these coalitions. No 2 people run them the same way, even at higher levels of play. And that, I think, is really wonderful, because if there is only one correct way to run a deck, then your game is poorly balanced. So I think it's interesting. I think it's very nice that there's still flexibility here. But yeah, I don't know, like the Thunderbolt can be so useful. All of the planes can be so useful when they're good, right? It's swingy. Yeah.
It's tempting to take out even say the Raven or a Seaplane with the way I play, because so often, right, in ranked you play against Entente, or in this case Scandi, where their main anti-plane piece is
Nighthawk.
an Nighthawk, right?
Yeah, and so anybody who's playing Scandi who sees USA is going to buy Nighthawks immediately.
Yep.
So that's a fair point. But then, on the other side of things, you do have less protection for your planes. So, like, I don't know. But you're on the Raven, I imagine.
Yeah, I run the Raven.
It's really expensive too, and that is always a problem for me playing USA. Yeah, okay. Seeing the M1 be effective, it's quite effective. the Raven being expensive always feels a little clunky. Like the Puff for 80 points is really what I prefer to run for something like a Seed Plane. And yeah, it'll miss, but it's so much easier
the
to buy
threat
that.
of it is more important than the actual damage it outputs.
Right.
I mean, the I forget what it's called, but the 110 point Seed Plane for US strikes that middle ground very nicely.
The
it's
Prowler?
just the Prowler does, because it gives you that perfect level. It just doesn't have any anti-helo capability.
Gotcha, but do you really need that? Like your Chaparral play has been really solid all game, and I don't think that's an exception. So if you're relying on the Chaparral for anti-helo, I almost wonder if the Prowler would be a good switch. But I mean, the last person who should
I
be deck
switched to
building USA.
using the Raven just because I wanted to see, because like people talk about it as one of the unicorns with the good stealth.
Oh yeah, I forgot about plane stealth.
Yeah. Well, it's the type of thing where if the Raven drops targeting, or your AA piece drops targeting on the Raven, I believe it's an instant miss.
Oh, okay.
And so with good stealth, the range that you drop vision on it is decreased.
Gotcha. That does make sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I guess. It's kind of interesting to me that Hypnotoad hasn't pushed up into the high ground with anything. Like, I wouldn't be able to resist. Oh man.
We've already described his personality, right, as a patient buildup of forces until a guaranteed victory is assured.
Yeah, that's fair. Man, I should ask you after this to show me a ranked win, because I feel like I accidentally got you to give me just like the most soul-crushing replay ever. Oh man, I'm so sorry. Okay. I gotta say, I like his style with the NM135s. This is one of my favorite Scandi vehicles. It's only one frontal armor, but it's the same autocannon as the French Vab. It's quite good.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean 10 points, one front armor.
Yeah,
20.
I wouldn't.
It's not.
I wouldn't take it in Scandi General, to be clear. But Scandi Mac, yeah, I think it definitely has a place. Like, you put a couple of these behind some militia and have STRV 103Ds behind it, and the cheap autocannons are just wonderful. So, and like you can take Gewehrman with it too. They're Dragoner's stat clones, so
yeah,
it's very solid. Oh my god, you were tired of this shit.
I was desperate. I was very desperate. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it looks like secondary explosions here as well, so that's gonna be, yeah, a couple, possibly some infantry there. Yeah, it's a rough choice to go for that, but I almost wonder if the Patriot gets the kill here. That's definitely, yep, nice. So just to take a step back, like that whole exchange, your Nighthawk for the automatic and a couple of the units, and he called in planes in response, and you get the kill. That's probably worth the Nighthawk, and then your retake here is getting there. So we have Commando Plus right here, US Marines 90 and the LVTP will get this. It just, I don't know, I think it's going to be, so his counter push is nicely timed.
Yep.
If you look up the textbook definition of what to do when your opponent's push is working, like this is exactly it. So I think
yep, push where they're not.
Yeah.
And the problem is that when he pushes where I'm not, he has a follow-up plan, or like there's something else to do, because once you take Foxtrot, you can then threaten reinforcement. For me, I take all of Bravo, win it back, hooray for the moral victory. But all those forces over there, there's nowhere for them to go.
Right, and
so it's time for the Marines to live up to their name.
You do have to wonder if this was a bit of an overcommit, but seeing all the stuff that was here earlier, I don't necessarily think so. I think if this had happened with like 15 minutes left in the match, it would be really pretty solid, because then you'd have enough time to get out of here. Like, you pull the Command Abrams back, it's still alive, that's really good. The longbow, like, this could be a killing ground like you wouldn't believe. Like, it's a really hard position to hold, oftentimes, particularly against USA.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if there's enough time. And that has to suck. Like, I don't know if you saw, did you see the Adopted Noob games between me and Jelly and Blitzwar and Pingo?
I did not, actually.
Yeah, so the second one was on this, and Blitzwar got a Nimrod and just had it right about here.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that one Nimrod went back and rearmed like 5 different times, and every time it came up, just killed, like, oh man, it was just, yeah, it was brutal. It was devastating. And especially for a deck that relies on the 103D, that could definitely pick it apart. Because you got to remember too, like, the 103D has 9 availability down vet, 7 up vet. It's really not that many. So your longbow gets 3 or 4 or 5 of them, and all of a sudden that tank presence is going to be really far down. And then once that's taken care of, the M1 Abrams can definitely do some good work here, because this thing will body his IFVs, even the CV9030N. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Alright, it's a nice theory. I think with a less cautious opponent, it definitely could have been put into practice, but if there's one takeaway I'm getting from this, it's that patience is a virtue. And it's a hard one to practice, but yeah.
It's hard to tell if he was patient because he recognized that it'd be effective against how I was playing, or if that's just his default.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Although I do hope I don't run into him in ranked, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, this is so like, you can see the beginnings of that helicopter defense here already, right? The longbows killed so many things. Cobras can definitely get shots in here. Then just cheap chaff pushing up to make sure everything of his is spotted. The Falskumjäger are struggling. Falskumjäger are struggling. With a little bit more time, I think this definitely could have been a really costly position for your opponent. And it's a nice response. Like it's good. Double M1. Close range, do these guys one-shots a 103D, or I'm not sure.
Their AP power is very low.
Yeah.
They're primarily there for Tisling HE and double MGs.
I imagine this deck probably doesn't run the oh geez, the 80-point version, M1 IP.
No.
Gotcha.
Those definitely pack more punch.
But the extra expense does.
They're not very well suited for things like Hell in a Small Place. Where,
this is nice.
Right. Yeah, I've mounted a Marine crossing.
Well, I mean, but you said earlier that you had nowhere to go with the infantry, and you've definitely made the most of a bad situation here. Like Rifleman 90, U.S. Marines 90, the LVTP. Like this is, it's not nothing, right? The issue is with 3 minutes left, you need what, like a +6 tick, I think.
Yeah, there's not enough. There's just not enough time.
But
and this really only worked because, right, it was the punch counter punch, right? He's seen that I had pushed heavily into Bravo. I saw that he then countered heavily into Foxtrot and then lost all his armor. So I felt confident that I could make a crossing without significant loss to the transport vehicles.
Yeah, but I mean that's good game sense. It's definitely good game sense. Oh no. You know, I saw something on the Reddit one time, and it makes me chuckle to this day. It's like, some people seem to enjoy watching the bombs land on their units, but for me, I prefer to move them. Definite case of that. It's a nice move on the M1. Yeah.
Yeah, the one tip I'd give from this game is that when you see the cluster bomber come in, move your vehicle at right angles away from it.
Yeah, that's true. It's very true. I think everywhere that you defended in the second half of the game went pretty well. I just wish it had happened earlier, and I think his kills in like between minute 5 and minute 12 really set the tone, unfortunately.
I think it really just shows how powerful air and a net counter is, because
Yeah.
that's where you can find the most either point efficiency or the point sinks.
Right, and he had points efficiency in the air in part because of a treasonous patriot.
Not living up to the
No. Well, okay, we've got a minute 36 left in the game. Do you have any other sort of closing thoughts on this?
No, it's a good game. There's a lot to learn from this one in terms of setting defenses on your 2-pointers,
not murdering
finding
your
the
own
right combination of A and net. Yeah, bombing any troops that refuse to attack.
Oh, there's the command up bombs. I mean, this has to be a feel-good moment at the end here. Like, it's not going to change the result, but this, I think, like, I don't think, and I don't mean to be annoying with this, but I don't think this game was necessarily out of your reach, which is always a good thing to evaluate as well. Is like, did this person really outclass me, or could I, with a couple of changes and a little bit more experience, definitely come back and give him the what for? And I personally think the next time you fight Hypnotoad, like, you keep this game in mind and you get a very different result. So I hope to see that replay at some point.
One day. The day will come.
The day will come. Fennec 20 mils. Oh my god. I hate this helicopter so much, and I use it in 2 of my decks, like both the decks that I've been playing on ranked recently, but I hate it so much, and whenever it gets kills I always just feel like an asshat.
I mean, it's just a flying autocannon.
Yeah.
There's nothing to hate about it.
Well, because it, for 6 strength and how quickly it kills infantry, it feels undercosted. Yeah, this is what we're talking about, the M1. Very nice. How is this thing out of fuel? Oh, was he just going, yeah, up and back the whole game? Alright, so 3220, 3395, like, you out-killed him there at the end, and that's including the longbow getting killed on your side. Just some very nice cautious pushes from Hypnotoad. Alright, that's going to be all we've got for today. Thank you for joining me for the replay, and we'll see
Thanks
you
for having
guys
me.
again tomorrow.